Hi guys, how you doing? I'm doing good. You best be doing good. It is now week 6 of waiting. I applied 6 weeks ago and are yet to hear anything past the point of sending in my documents. We have worked out through blog posts and comments on blog posts that we should be hearing back in the month of June. You can learn a lot of things from the flowers, but especially in the month of June. In the golden afternoon. Yes, June. So be prepared for some swinging information coming your way soon. But because there was no news, I did promise last week that I was going to talk to you guys about ride movies. If you prescribe to the ideology that all of the Pirates movies count as ride movies, then there would be 9. If, like me, you only believe that the first one counts, then there would be 5. My general feeling about the subject is that the first Pirates movie is the only one that's actually based off the ride. Took the general story of the ride and tried their best to make it make sense and make it into a film. And there are references to the ride throughout the movie, whereas, at least as far as I understand, because I haven't seen any of the other 4 since I've been on the ride, I definitely don't remember any references, and I feel like the other 4 just took the character of Jack, or the characters that they created in the first movie, Will and Elizabeth, who were not in the ride, and continued their stories throughout the film without it relating back to the story of the ride. So personally, I believe that the other 4 are not technically ride movies, and because I believe that, and because I didn't want to watch them, I only did the 5 ride movies, which are, in order of release, Tower of Terror, Mission to Mars, Country Bears, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Haunted Mansion. I really wanted to be careful and particular and make these reviews short and sweet. I wrote down my feelings after I watched all of them, and I'm going to just read you straight from what I wrote. But because I'm not used to scripts and reading and planning things, I decided to build myself a coping mechanism. I'm a robot, and that was a pun. As this review is going to sound really robotic, I decided that I would be a robot for the day, to make it easier on everybody. Without further ado, I give you ride movies. Tower of Terror is a terrible movie. Its story is incredibly simple, but the way information is revealed and explored makes everything needlessly convoluted. All of the dramatic reveals are foreshadowed so heavily that it becomes almost painful to watch after time, as the movie is practically beating you to death with clues. I could go on and on and on. But where Tower of Terror fails in terms of story and structure, it makes up for in character. Sadly, most of the film's leads were very underwhelming. However, its side characters were where this film really shines. The interactions between the ghosts are almost all priceless. Q was a beautiful gift, and even the curator of the sanatorium was entertaining for the short time he was on the screen. While I cannot recommend this film to anyone, and although its cons far outweigh its pros, I will definitely allow it that the side characters ensured that I was entertained while I was weeping for the sake of humanity. Mission to Mars was a downright travesty. Where Tower of Terror had me enjoying certain moments of character interaction, Mission to Mars was just a 2-hour exploration of the depths of human boredom. The story was completely ridiculous, the characters were piss boring, and the acting would have been better if they'd hired cardboard cutouts. You'd be thinking at this point that I would rise from the depths of my own despair to find something good about this movie, and you would be completely incorrect. Try as I might, I actually could not think of anything new, exciting, or even remotely pleasant about Mission to Mars. Country Bears was a very different experience to what I expected. While Country Bears was definitely not a good movie by any standard, it did differ from its ride movie brethren on one important note. Country Bears displayed a unique sense of humour throughout that made the film charming at the very least, and at points quite hilarious. Disney's attempt at satirising their own work definitely was an asset to this film at certain points. However, there is only so far satire can take you when your film plays into the same ridiculous plot points as the films it pokes fun at. As an audience member who went into this film expecting a downright stupid movie decorated with a cast of terrifying puppet bears, I got exactly what I was prepared for. Country Bears, while being everything you would expect, also defies expectation in its sense of humour and its strange charm. Out of all the movies I've seen so far, it is the only movie I would return to with excitement instead of dread. Compared to the complete cinematic failures I've seen so far, this movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, is a grand success. Considering it separately, Pirates stands on its own as a great success without the need for comparison. The characters are well defined, the humour is a lot more subtle than that of Country Bears, but with a better hit and miss ratio. The plot stands up well under scrutiny. And yet, I can't help but dislike this movie with little discernible reason. Try as I might, I cannot seem to pinpoint why I find it so painfully mediocre. Even the most nitpicky part of me can only find a few tiny problems with it. A few repeated beats, a really ambiguous minor antagonist, and a tacked-on resolution certainly can't account for how much I dislike this film. Subjectivity aside, Pirates is a good film. It's funny, it's entertaining, it's well acted. But taking all of that into account, I still can't help but feel like Country Bears had more to share in terms of heart and charm. And taking all of its good points into account, I honestly cannot see why this film warranted 4 sequels. Haunted Mansion is far from being a masterpiece. To be honest, it's far from being good. Some instances of terrible acting, terrible dialogue, plot holes abound. So much pointed foreshadowing that occasionally crosses too far over the line between foreshadowing and just outright telling the audience things they shouldn't know yet. In terms of its faults, Haunted Mansion is an easy target. What Haunted Mansion did have in its favour though, aside from Eddie Murphy, is how much homage it paid to the original ride. Sadly, I've not been on the ride as it was closed the one time I visited Disney, but I did do some research into the attraction for the purpose of accurately reviewing this film. And, from what I can tell, Haunted Mansion does a spectacular job of incorporating elements of the ride into the story. From the more obvious inclusions, such as Madame Leota, to the smaller references like the "There's always my way" line used in both the ride and the film. Talking about these films generally, there has been a steady incline in quality through the years. Pirates is obviously the most successful out of the group, but when you take Haunted Mansion and compare it to Tower of Terror, the company has come leaps and bounds in terms of ride-based storytelling. The one thing that completely defied my expectation is how much each film stuck to the source material. Every single film used their source material to some extent, and some definitely more than others. I went into this expecting that the film to draw the least from the ride it was based off was destined to be the best out of the group, but boy was I wrong. In fact, the film to draw the least from its ride counterpart, Mission to Mars, was by far the worst of the lot. In the end, I'm so glad I went and watched all of these films. All but one defied my expectations so completely that I'm actually looking forward to more ride-based movies in the future. That's not to say I'll endorse them, I'll just be in the queue to rent them at the video store when no one is around to judge me. In the end, I had fun, and that's all that matters. I would definitely recommend, if you're a fan of Disney's more live action-y style movies, Country Bears. I really enjoyed. Before I went and saw Country Bears, I had zero intention of going to see the Country Bear ride outside of my one time that I have to complete the item on my bucket list. But that movie actually made me excited about the Country Bears ride. No matter how stupid it was just genuinely entertaining and fun to watch. It was dumb, it was ridiculous, but some of the jokes I just found really intelligent, because as someone, a famous comedy writer once said to me, humor is about surprise. You laugh because you're surprised, and a lot of the time I was laughing out loud in that movie because what was coming out of the characters' mouths was just so surprising in a weird way, in a fun way. I would definitely recommend Country Bears. I think if you can get past how stupid the plot is in Tower of Terror, the characters were hilarious. I found myself like ridiculously invested in that movie. Like I said, wasn't a big fan of pirates, and I don't even know why. But there were some really cute inclusions, like the last line being, you know, like the song and the ride, you know the song. Yeah, there were just a few neat, cute little inclusions like that that I enjoyed, but it didn't really make up for the fact that I was really bored during that movie. Haunted Mansion is fun, but also sometimes not fun. Those are my opinions, carefully scripted or not. This week we're going to talk about staging if there's no news. Breaking news is more important, but if I hear nothing, come back for staging. Alrighty, bye!